It's season 2 of the Prototype Cup Germany after a fantastic 2022 when this series made its start. The ADAC, in association with Creventic, have brought the Prototype Cup Germany back again for 2023. It's bigger, it's better, a series that is getting stronger with every race. Hello everybody, welcome to the Hockenheimring. Conditions, well, not quite perfect, but they're a lot better than they were in free practice. The first couple of sessions getting heavily rained on. In fact, the first session got cancelled completely. But here we are at the start of a 12-race season for the Prototype Cup Germany. The cars are on the grid here at this legendary circuit as we get ready to go again. The series starting here with round 1 at Hockenheim as part of the ADAC race weekend. Then it all goes up a gear because our second round will be at Oschersleben as part of the DTM package, and then to Zandvoort in June, also the DTM and the mighty Norris Ring. These drivers will be challenged at the Norris Ring for round 4. Then we head to Assen for round 5, and it all comes to a close in October at the Nürburgring. But our focus here at Hockenheim, you can see the cars on the grid at the moment, and we will be getting ready to go very, very shortly. So good to see these cars, these monsters that roar around this circuit. And there you see our pole sitter for this race, Oscar Tunjo, a driver who made his mark in last year's Prototype Cup Germany. We've seen him in some other classes throughout the years. In fact, in 2018, we saw him in GT Masters, but he's really taken to this Prototype Cup Germany. A quick look there at the man who was alongside him on the grid, Laurent Her, in the number 72 car. And Laurent Her is sharing driving duties with the defending trophy champion, Matthias Luton. It's Gabriel Zhilkova, it looks like down there. So many good names stepping into Prototype Cup Germany. Some really recognisable names from other classes have moved across to this, the LMP3 category Prototype Series. A unique series in Germany, and it's unique because it has 3 different LMP3 brands. No other series has that in 2023. The Duquesne D08, very much the weapon of choice for a lot of the teams, the Ligier JSP 320. And we've also got 3 of the 6-build Ginetta chassis, the G61 LTP3. So really good, really varied. We look there at the father and son team of Mark van der Snel and Max van der Snel. And Max, who has qualified that car, has done a great job putting it on the 3rd row of the grid, 5th position to be precise. So really good job from him. The 2, well, one is a bronze driver, that's Mark van der Snel, and a silver category driver. We'll be talking a bit about categories as this event goes on, because the drivers are all graded by the FIA, and the category that they are in very much affects their pit stops. And we'll be talking about that as the race progresses. There is a mandatory pit stop for all cars. It is a 55-minute race plus 1 lap, as you see the 3-minute board being shown to the drivers. During that 55-minute race, there will be a pit window that will open. It'll open 22 minutes into the race, all being well, and it'll be open for 10 minutes. During that 10-minute window, all cars will be required to pit for a mandatory stop and a driver change. The minimum pit stop time is 85 seconds, plus there will be an additional time depending on the driver's grading, just to complicate it a little bit more there. We're looking at, looks like Lucas Moron there in the JVO Racing Duquesne D08. Great to welcome Jorg van Orman's team to the grid as part of the Prototype Cup Germany. Some real names taking some interest here. Aust Motorsport, there's a name that we've known for many years through various categories, and they are now lined up on the grid, as are Conrad Motorsport, a team that made their name very much over the years and were very much at the top of the standings in last year's series of the Prototype Cup Germany. But our focus is very much on Oscar Tunjo in the number 6 car. That is one of Jörg van Ormen's cars, a Duqueine Do 8. And he is sharing driving duties with Julian Apothelos. Julian will be taking over for the second stint. They're both silver-rated drivers, so it means when their mandatory pit stop comes of 85 seconds minimum time, there will be another 20 seconds added onto that on account of the fact they are both silver-rated drivers. Alongside Oscar Tunjo, Laurent Her, we saw him a little bit earlier in the number 72 car, sharing with Matthias Luton. Laurent Her is the only gold-rated driver on the grid, the German driver for Kroanen Kempe Motorsport, also in the Duqueine, and he with the bronze-rated driver Matthias Luton, and Matthias will be taking over after the pit stops. The 1-minute board has been shown. It's time for the teams to leave the cars on the grid. These phenomenal machines powered by the 5.6-litre Nissan V8 engine. It's the VK56 engine, produces about 455 brake horsepower. They are all the same. And I have to say, if you've never seen these live, you really want to give it a go, because the ground absolutely shakes when these all burst into life. Now, the grid is left with just the drivers and their thoughts. You can see the safety car there with the yellow flag from the side, and in a few moments we will start on the formation lap. Good afternoon, everybody. Welcome to the Hockenheimring. It is a circuit that is 4.574 kilometers around. That equates to about 2.842 miles in old money. 17 turns. 9 to the right and 8 to the left. Keep an eye especially on turn 6. The hairpin comes immediately after the very fast parabolica under heavy braking. It's a great overtaking opportunity, but we have seen so many races in other classes over the years lost on that hairpin because it really is a tight turn. So the field gets rolling. And we look there at the car at the rear of the pack, just getting going as well. The formation lap, and the cars are now getting heat into the tyres and into the brakes. A critical part of the race is Oscar Tunjo, who starts on pole position with Laurent Her alongside. On the second row, Marcus Pommer. There's a name that's familiar to many GT fans from over the years. We've seen him in GT Masters over the years, haven't we? And Nico Gerler, the last time I spoke about him, he was racing in an 88C Formula 4. He lines up, great qualifying from him. They line up on the second row. Max van der Snel really has impressed in the number 99 car, lining up on the third row. And Maximilian Hacklander, another legend in GT racing, as the cars circulate around the aforementioned hairpin. Maximilian Hacklander, another driver that we've seen in GT Masters. But I have to highlight the driver who starts 7th on the grid, Martin Andersson, verylastminute.com. He came in, was only announced yesterday, day before yesterday, as a driver in this series. He is the current ADAC TCR Germany champion. In fact, the last TCR Germany champion in the current format, and he lines up alongside Lucas Moron on row 4. But really great to have Martin Andersson here, a real talent. Elias Sperandino, he's driving solo, 9th on the grid alongside Dino Steiner. And then Danny Sufi, a name that we saw plenty of last year alongside Jakob Elbacker, and this is his local race. He lives just down the road, Jakob Elbacker does. Finally, Robin Rogowski, Marco Kasich, who's sharing with Jan Marszałkowski and Kevin Roscheit, who bring up the rear of the grid. The cars are now side by side. We are getting ready for 55 minutes of racing plus 1 lap. Many of these drivers have not had seat time in these cars in the dry weather because of the changeable conditions, especially during free practice yesterday. Many of the drivers will be learning this, as indeed we all are, on the hoof as we go along. So Here is the safety car, and it will be, in theory, peeling off into the pit lane. There she goes, and we are ready for the start of the 2023 season for the Prototype Cup Germany here at the Hockenheimring, brought to you by the ADAC in association with Creventic. The lights are green, and we are go, and it's Oscar Tunjo who steps off that pole position, leading the pack into the first corner. The 72 car challenging though on the outside, looking hard. Lawrence Herr is there as well, but Oscar Tunjo very much in control of this. And into third place, it's Marcus Pommer. So the front of the car, front few cars settling down. Nico Gerler there in fourth place. The cars settling into single file. They've all got round the first few corners. We get settled down. You can see Martin Andersson there in the blue and white car already challenging for position as we head towards the hairpin, looking to make up ground in the early stages. And that was one of the Conrad Motorsport cars going deep into the corner there. And out we come of the hairpin towards turn 7 and turns 8. A lot of jostling for position. So a good clean start by all the drivers. It's Oscar Tunjo who leads the way. And you can see challenges for position up and down the field. So getting round this very first lap towards turn 8 and 9, the Mercedes turn. And then soon we will have completed our first lap. Oscar Tunjo leading the way in this, the Prototype Cup Germany for the LMP3 cars. Now Martin Andersson there in the number 21 car, currently being challenged by one of the Conrad Motorsport cars. That'll be the number 2 car being driven by Danny Sufi. Danny didn't have the best qualifying session this morning and was a long way down the pack, so having to work hard to find his way through. So JVO Racing, that is the leader, and of course it is Oscar Tunjo at the wheel of that. The Quarinen Kempi Motorsport car in second place, the number 72. Very much a team sport here. So challenges for position up and down the pack, and we can see challenges further there with the orange and blue car, which is running alongside through the Parabolica. But here comes the Conrad Motorsport car going 3 abreast into the corner. And is he going to go deep? Are they going to make it around? Sliding through, just about keeping hold of it and continuing on their way. So good work by everybody, and a good challenge around the hairpin corner. So 52 minutes of this race will be remaining. Remember, we have the pit stop window that will come later on. So at the moment, it's Oscar Tunjo leading the way from the 72 car of Lawrence Herr, but lots of fighting further back, especially from the number 22 car, Maximilian Hacklander, who is challenging hard for position. The 35 car in front of him with Elio Sperandino, who is in that. And in fact, that's not Elio Sperandino in there. That looks like Lucas Moron also there as well. So a lot of challenging going on for these positions on a track that is still not as clean as we would like it to be in the sunny conditions. So leader number 6, 72, 15. That is the 22 car that we're looking at. The Conrad Motorsport car in 11th place. Maximilian Hacklander at the wheel. It's the number 3 car of Dino Steiner that is ahead of him. So Dino Steiner, having dropped down in the Aust Motorsport car, now coming under pressure from the number 22 car. So Conrad Motorsport in 11th place. You can see the teams being indicated by the graphic on the left of your screen. You can see that it's nearly 2 seconds that Oscar Tunjo has. Now look at this challenge on the outside. The 22 car, Conrad Motorsport car, being driven by Maximilian Hacklander, challenging for that position. Maximilian Hacklander, a driver that we would expect to see further up the field, and Dino Steiner doing all that he can to defend from the number 22 car. Behind them is the number 70 car being driven by Jakob Erlbacher, a driver who knows his way around this circuit. and is very familiar with it. So the race settles down, 2 laps in the book, and it is Jorg van Ormen's team, JVO Racing, who lead the way. The car's now just spacing out a little bit out onto the pit straight once again here at the Hockenheimring. The rumble of these cars as they come past the pits is deafening, and there is Martin Andersson in the blue and white number 21 car. Behind him is Danny Soufi in the Conrad Motorsport car. Now, Danny Soufi has a distinct advantage here, and that is that he did a season in Prototype Cup Germany last year, and he knows these LMP3 cars very well indeed. Martin Andersson still very much learning the ropes. The TCR Germany champion having to work hard to defend from Danny Soufi, the American driver against the driver from Denmark. And now side by side into the corner, and Martin Andersson very wisely just giving Danny Soufi the space, although possibly looking for the switchback out of the hairpin corner. But Danny Soufi takes that position away, and he moves up a position into 7th place. Meanwhile, at the front, Oscar Tunjo continuing to stretch his legs, 2.5 seconds to the good. Again, challenges further back, the number 70 car, Jakob Erlbacher. We spoke about him earlier, currently in 12th place, but now pushing forwards, and ahead of him, Maximilian Hacklander. So, Prototype Cup Germany, race 1 here at the Hockenheimring. And we continue to look at Dino Steiner in the number 3 car for Aust Motorsport. The distinctive car behind is the number 77, being driven by Robin Rogowski. Now, there's a driver we saw in ADAC GT4 last year. And Robin Rogowski now hunting down Dino Steiner, the bronze-graded driver who is sharing with Konstantin Skoll. Now, there's a name that you'll recognise if you follow ADAC racing. But at the moment, Dino Steiner at the wheel, and the bronze driver versus the silver-rated driver of Robin Rogowski. Rogowski a little bit more experienced, and of course putting the heat on to the car in front of him, and surely only a matter of time before Dino Steiner has to give way to the young Robin Rogowski. Now look how eager he looks into the hairpin, now ducks to the inside. It'll be a drag race down towards turn 7, and surely this is the point where Robin Rogowski moves ahead. Steiner goes wide, is unable to defend that position. So it is Robin Rogowski who moves forwards from what was a relatively low starting position for him, down in 13th place, but certainly making good progress. Making good progress, our leader still well ahead, 3.129 seconds to the good. Oscar Tunjo continues to lead the way. In 2nd place, it is Lawrence Herr, who really can't do much about him at the moment. But of course, there is a long way to go in this race, including the mandatory stop and driver change. And to remind you that all of the pit stops will have different minimum times as we continue to focus on the Dino Steiner car. Dino Steiner, who is a 54-year-old driver, and very much was the driving force between for Aust to switch from what was GT racing to prototype racing. And Dino Steiner is the one who has really put the pressure on, inspired, we could say, Aust Motorsport to make that switch to LMP3 racing. LMP3, Le Mans Prototype 3 here at the Hockenheimring in Germany. The car's fairly well spaced out at the moment. That's Martin Andersson once again, currently in 8th place. Behind him is Elio Sperandillo. Elio, very young driver, and he's just 17 years old, an ex-Swiss karting champion, and first raced in a motor racing car just after his 4th birthday. He test drove Formula 1 but was never, not Formula 1, Formula 4, oh, I bet he wishes. Test drove Formula 4 but was never able to gather the finances to actually mount a full campaign. But Elias Sperandino from Switzerland, one of the real up-and-coming talents, a young charger, and we're very excited to have him as part of this series. Ahead of Martin Andersson is the number 2 car, the Conrad Motorsport car of Danny Soufi. Soufi, as already mentioned, from the USA, was working very much in Conrad Motorsport last year, something of an intern, doing odd jobs around the garage. He had very little experience in racing outside of the USA, had done drifting and MX-5 racing, and then jumps into LMP3. A baptism of fire for Danny Soufi, but he has taken it with both hands and has been very impressive. There is Martin Andersson for Molnar Motorsport. Molnar Motorsport, who did originally enter 2 cars for this event, but have now just got 1 at the moment. We hope to see their 2nd car as this season progresses. So there is Martin Andersson. Ahead of him, Danny Soufi, and behind him is Elias Sperandino. So our leader continues on his way, and it is still Oscar Tuño. We're not seeing much of him on screen because he is some 4.6 seconds ahead of Lawrence Herr. And at the moment, not a lot of challenging going on for that lead position. In 3rd place, it is Marcus Pommer. We haven't mentioned much about him so far. Marcus Pommer, who was the 2014 German Formula 3 champion. He's had 6 wins in ADAC GT Masters, so you know that he is a great driver riding on board. And you can see the view from Lawrence Herr's perspective in the Quarren Kempe Motorsport Duqueine D08. The Duqueine with 8 cars on the grid for this race. Ligier have 4 and Ginetta have 3. And you can see how much hard work it is steering one of these mighty monsters with a big 5.6 litre Nissan engine, pushing it along here at the Hockenheimring. So great perspective from Lawrence Herr's seating position almost, and you can see quite how much work there is involved in driving one of these monsters around. A Formula car with bodywork, really, even if the driver does sit to one side, but very much a prototype built especially for the job. The LMP3, of course, the 3rd in the category behind the hypercars and the LMP2, and a really great move by the ADAC and Creventic to bring this kind of racing to Germany and to have a German series. So Oscar Tuño is well ahead of this car here. Lawrence Herr, you can see him just taking that perfect line around the Hockenheimring. Now at the moment, conditions are dry. There are clouds in the sky, and it could go either way as we head down with Lawrence Herr along past the pits in towards the north bend that is turn 1. Around there, past the pit exit. 22 car of Maximilian Hacklander, currently in 10th place, running on his own for Conrad Motorsport at the moment. Of course, there are 2 Conrad Motorsport cars in this race. Danny Soufi driving the other. Franz Conrad, an absolute legend in motor racing. We were hoping we were going to see him behind the wheel of one of these cars this year, as indeed we hoped last year, but very much running the team. And of course, that fairly unique Ginetta G61 LTP3. We said at the top of the show, there are just 3 of the 6 built Ginetta chassis that are in this race. So great to see Ginetta featuring strongly, but it's currently 4 Duqueines in the top 4 positions. Right, challenge further back, the number 14 car that has been driven by Marco Kasich, a driver from Canada. So Marco Kasich trying to work his way forwards through the pack, and the number 12 car is there as well, and that is Kevin Roscheit. So Marko Kasic sharing driving duties with Jan Marszałkowski, a driver who won in the ADAC GT Masters last year for Drago Racing Team ZVO. A fantastic win that was, and he was elated to have won at GT Masters. It's not just anybody, it's an elite club of drivers who can win in GT Masters. And along with Jan Marszałkowski's co-driver, Marvin Dienst, they won the second race at Hockenheimring last year. Marvin Dienst was in Prototype Cup Germany last year. In fact, he was one of the drivers that won the championship last year. Not in it this year, but his stablemate from last year now carrying the mantle. So Martin Andersson continues to be challenged by Elias Sperandio. The Swiss driver now lining up the Danish driver, looks to the inside. To remind you, Martin Andersson has very much said he's taking it a little bit easy in this race, just while he finds his feet. It was very last minute, the deal to jump into the Molnar Motorsport Duquesne. And with the wet conditions in free practice, he really hasn't had a chance to get the grips with this yet, but he is doing exceptionally well as he circulates the number 21 car in 8th place. Right, oh, we've got some names on the screen now. That's really helpful, isn't it? So you can see there on the graphic, Oscar Tunjo, Lawrence Marcus Palmer, Nico Gerler very much on his own in 4th place. And in 5th place, Max van der Snel. Good driving from him. The van der Snel family from the Netherlands are really making their mark here. So we continue to follow these cars around, and there Martin Andersson in 8th place, working hard, but it is Elio Sperandio who is now past him and takes that 8th place away. So Martin Andersson down into 9th place, as indeed has just been updated on our graphics. Oscar Tunjo continues to stretch his legs at the front, 5.5 seconds. Now some of the drivers here do not make a driver change. There are a couple of drivers who are solo drivers. They are Elias Sperandio and Martin Andersson, so they will still have to make a mandatory stop, and they will have to be paused for a minimum time, but there won't be a driver change. They have chosen to go it alone. One of those is that car there, the blue and orange number 35 car being run by BHK Motorsport. Really good to have them here as part of this series, and Elias Sperandio at the wheel of that car, really getting to grips with it in great style. We're about just over 5 minutes away from the pit window opening, and that's when there'll be that 10-minute window where drivers will need to come in. Maximilian Hacklander, I would dread to think how many laps he has done around the Hockenheimring over the years. The German driver knows his way around here with his eyes closed, but very much his eyes open at the moment as he circulates in 10th place. Next up the road, as he gets it all wrong out of the corner, a bit of a wobble there as he misses his braking point. It just shows you how tricky these cars are to drive, even with someone as experienced as Maximilian Hacklander. And there is the number 8 of Nico Gerler, racing for BWT Mucker Motorsport. There's another legendary team who has made the move into Prototype Cup Germany. Of course, Mucker Motorsport, we've seen them through many classes throughout the years, including GT Masters and ADAC Formula 4. Now in Prototype Cup Germany, Stefan Mucker's operation, sponsored by the very distinctive Best Water technology. The pink cars seen throughout motorsport, and in the Prototype Cup Germany being driven by Nico Gerler, and he will be sharing that with Gustavo Quirilla, who will be taking over. The Brazilian driver will take over the driving duties once the pit stops have been done. 36 minutes remaining of this race 1 of a 12-race season for the Prototype Cup Germany. Oscar Tunjo continues to stretch his legs at the front, but this man here, Nico Gerler, in 4th place. Now he is some 3.6 seconds back from Marcus Palmer. But of course, once the pit stops have been and gone, this may all well change over. So it will be interesting to see how they come out of this. So Nico Gerler running on his own at the moment. Again, one of the many drivers who hasn't had the chance to run in the dry this weekend very much at all. We look again at the view from Laurens Herr in second place, a little under 6 seconds back from Oscar Tunjo. So you can see the view, you can hear the rumble of the engine. And you can see Laurens Herr doing all that he can, fighting the car even though he's not in traffic. You can see how much hard work now along the Parabolica. It's a corner, but it's taken absolutely flat out. These cars all about the downforce, and it really comes into its own here. But then hard on the anchors as he steers into the hairpin. A sharp right turn right down to slow speeds, and then back on the accelerator around towards turn 7, which is a bit of a kink, taken flat out, and then another heavy braking into turn 8. So turn 8 will be that sharp left turn, and then we head around towards Mercedes Arena, the Motordrome, and then into the latter stages of this lap. A great circuit here at Hockenheim. Always test the drivers, always very exciting. Oscar Tunjo still leads. There is the number 99 car, Max van der Snel, in 5th place. And Max van der Snel, some 1.9 seconds behind Nico Gerler. A great account of himself here in this race, and it'll be his father who will take over after the pit stops. And the number 5 car of Lucas Moron in 6th place. Danny Soufi doing well. He's worked his way up from 11th, this is where he started, to P7. And Elias Sperendio, who is in 8th ahead of Martin Andersson. Maximilian Hacklander rounding out the top 10, and then Jakob Elbacker, Robin Rogowski, Marco Kasich, and Dino Steiner in 14th place ahead of Kevin Rorscheid. So the cars a little bit spaced out at the moment. No major battles going on the track, but it's about surviving as well as wheel-to-wheel action. It is just year 2 of the Prototype Cup Germany. And having said there's not much wheel-to-wheel action, here's Maximilian Hacklander closing in on Martin Andersson for that 9th place. Martin Andersson, he's done a fair few laps himself around here, but this is a far cry from the Honda Civic that he was driving last time he was at the Hockenheimring. Very much dominating the TCR Germany Championship, which he did in style. We were wondering what he was going to be doing. He's been working hard on renovating his house over the winter months, and a big renovation project, but now back to the stuff that he's really passionate about. Not that he's not passionate about fitting kitchen units, but I think this is probably more at the top of his agenda, and that is motor racing. And boy, what a step. TCR Germany into prototypes, and this is forcing him to draw on every bit of skill that he has. Of course, he was racing with Franz Engstler's team in TCR Germany, learned an awful lot, but still hard work applying that to the mighty Le Mans prototype cars. And when you got Maximilian Hacklander bearing down on you, filling your rearview mirrors, you really are forced to focus. You can see Martin Andersson taking a very different line through the corner to Maximilian Hacklander. The Conrad Motorsport car following him and tracking his every move. This is the fight for 9th place that you're watching. You can see for your timing screens about half a second between them, but that has now closed right up, and into the hairpin they go. Maximilian Hacklander takes his chance, moves to the inside, but Martin Andersson, well, he's not giving up, is he? Look at this, fighting back on the outside. It's a drag race. Andersson, what great driving from him around turn 7. Now the heavy braking of turn 8. And Martin Andersson fighting back against the experience of Maximilian Hacklander and showing that he will be a force to be reckoned with in LMP3 racing. Great stuff from Martin Andersson as he holds on to that 9th place. And that is Danny Soufi parked up at the side of the track. Oh no, what's happened there? So Danny Sufi is parked up at the side and clearly has an issue. You'll have seen that while all this was going on, the pit window opened while we were focusing on that battle with Martin Andersson and Maximilian Hacklander. The pit window opened. Now the car's stationary at the side of the track. This may well bring out a safety car. Now, to remind you, there is this window which has been open for 3 minutes already, except we were too busy looking at the racing. And there's 7 minutes left on this window. Drivers will need to come into the pits. Now, if there's a safety car, it might be that drivers will wait until that comes out and therefore minimise any damage from a pit stop. Although there is a minimum time on the pit stop, still, if you can do it behind the safety car, you can make up a little bit of space. But I think there may even be a full course yellow. We wait to see what occurs. Nothing on our timing screen is saying anything at the moment. Martin Andersson is still fending off Maximilian Hacklander in this, the first race of the season for Prototype Cup Germany. Maximilian Hacklander did a good job. Andersson did an even better job holding on to that position. Still, the fight for what is now 7th place, and that is because a number of drivers have pitted and have switched over, and we'll see when the leaders do decide to come in for their mandatory stop, and in most cases a driver change. At the moment, Andersson has the measure, and of course he's one of the drivers who is running solo in that car, so he will be staying in it after he has made his mandatory stop. Now, tugging that car out of the way without a safety car and without a full course yellow. So, well, hats off to the brave marshals. So the number 2 car of Danny Sufi, and what a shame, a driver who is very much a favourite for the championship this year in Prototype Cup Germany, but will not be scoring any points. Neither will his teammate Nico Silva, who's come all the way from the USA to watch this race, because he's not going to get to drive in it. He will get another chance tomorrow, because the second race of the weekend takes place tomorrow afternoon. Right, into the pits, that is Maximilian Hacklander. He is handing over to Sebastian von Gartzen, another driver that we saw last year. Also into the pits, that is Elias Sperandillo, but he, if I remind you, is staying in the car. Now, according to my calculations, the 85-second minimum pit stop time, plus I believe he has 25 seconds on top of that he needs to be stationary. So according to my dodgy maths, that's about 110 seconds stationary in the pit. So this could easily shuffle up the order. Number 14 into the pits as well, Marko Kasic, handing over to Jan Marszałkowski. So good to see Jan Marszałkowski back in a race seat. He was struggling to find a drive for this year and was very much considering retiring from racing. We are so pleased he didn't. He is a massively talented driver, as proven by that GT Masters win last year, and also a contender for the ADAC GT4 Championship in the 2 years before that. And Prototype Cup Germany is a wonderful home for Jan Marszałkowski. We hope that he carries on for the very much the long term in this series. So now the car's getting busy into pit lane. There's Martin Andersson coming in. Again, he will stay in the car, but as a silver driver, he's another one that will have a long pit stop, a pit stop of 110 seconds. Minimum number of crew allowed to work on the car at one time. Just taking the tyre pressures, very heavily regulated. It's still Oscar Tunjo out on track at the moment, still leading the way. Dina Steiner in the number 3 car will be handing over to Konstantin Skoll. But that is still a long way back at the moment. Oscar Tunjo and Lawrence Hurt still very much with their authority on this race, ahead of Marcus Pommer and Max van der Snel. You can see from your graphic that our leader is now into the pits. Oscar Tunjo into the pits as we look at the challenge between Kevin Roscheit and Dino Steyer. and that is down in 13th place. Both of those drivers still yet to make their mandatory stop and driver change. So the Aust Motorsport car, that's a baptism of fire for Aust Motorsport. They're very much used to being at the sharp end of the grid, and the move comes there past Kevin Rohrscheidt and taking that position away, Dina Steiner up to 13th place. So Tunyo still in the pits. Lawrence Herr still out on the track according to our graphics. You can see everybody else who is in the pits as well. Marcus Pommer is in the number 15 car. He's handing over to Gary Hauser. Now there's a driver who has some experience here. He was quickest in FP2 yesterday and will be mighty strong. There is the race leader, Oscar Tunyo, the number 6 car, handing over to Julian Apotholos. Now, Julian Apotholos, a driver that we've seen a lot of, primarily in TCR Germany, but we have seen him in GT4 as well, a little bit of GT World Challenge Europe. But for Julian Apotholos, the Swiss driver, taking to LMP3, has been very impressive in all of the practice sessions, and now taking over Oscar Tunyo. These two young drivers, one from Colombia, that was Oscar Tunyo, and one from Switzerland, and they working together really well. Now, is this, yes it is, the number 72 car into the pit. So Lawrence Herr handing over to Matthias Luton. Matthias Luton, who is the reigning trophy champion, looking to defend that title this year. A bit of almost a collision in the pit lane. Cars coming in, cars going out, but all is well. And into the pits we come for the number 72 car. Now, Matthias Luton, a bronze gentleman driver, Lawrence Herr, a gold driver. It is a 20-second handicap for them, so it'll be the mandatory pit stop of 85 seconds plus 20 seconds for the handicap. So again, dodgy maths, but I make that about 105 seconds for the number 72 car. So you can see how after the stops things may well be jumbled up. It is Julian Apotholos in the number 6 car who will be trying to make hay while the sun shines. It says Oscar Tunyo on your graphic, but it is Julian Apotholos who is in the number 6 car. And he needs to get out there on the open track and get those laps put in, because the 72 car will have a 5 seconds shorter pit stop, and Matthias Luton may well rejoin in front of the 6 car. So the pit window has now closed. Anybody who is in the pits or was in the pits is able to exit, and everybody has stopped. So some of those names that you see on your graphic are not 100% accurate, because we do have some different drivers now behind the wheel. We're looking at Julian Apotholos, who's taken over from Oscar Tunyo in the number 6 car, and oh dear, not a great day for Conrad Motorsport. Sebastian von Gartzen also coming to a stop, and that is really bad news, just out on turn 8, I think, and he comes to a stop there. Well, judging by what we saw last time, I don't think they're going to throw a safety car for that. So both Conrad Motorsport cars coming to a stop. That is such a shame. Sebastian von Gartzen, who took over from Maximilian Hacklander, pulls the car up at the side of the track, and it looks like his afternoon is over. He literally only did a lap or two, and that is such a shame, and that's a very short day for him. So the number 14 car, that is the aforementioned Jan Marszałkowski, who has got the hammer down in 11th place, having taken over from Marco Kasich, and Jan Marszałkowski giving it the large out of the corner, get the power down and keep it going. So Jan Marszałkowski doing what he can, working well actually, because Marco Kasich did qualify down in 14th place, so they've worked their way up to 11th. And again, these drivers, baptism of fire, that's the word that is used quite a bit but it's very relevant. All learning the trade as they go. The leader comes through. Julian Apotholos just lapping the car in front. And Jan Marszałkowski very kindly keeping out of the way of that particular battle. After the pit stops are finished, it looks like it is Julian Apotholos who still leads the way from Matthias Luton, who's taken over now the wheel of the number 72 car from Lawrence Hurd. Now that's another car. Oh, we have now got a full course yellow. So full course yellow is out, and here it is. It's now just flashed up on the timing screen, better late than never. So no overtaking at all. The cars will be brought down to about 80 kilometers an hour, I believe. 80 kilometers an hour. No overtaking at all. So good to see the full course yellow, because safety is everything. And that'll be to remove the Conrad Motorsport car of Sebastian von Gartzen. So the drivers getting a chance to take a breather, not that they necessarily want it, and I should think some of the drivers further back would have very much liked it if we could have had a safety car, because that would have bunched the field back up. So, with the full course yellow out, it is Julian Apotholos who leads Matthias Luton, Gary Hauser in the Racing Experience car, number 15 car, in third place. Mark van der Snel, who's taken over from Max van der Snel, in fourth. What a great performance from them. Gustavo Kirilla in the number 8 car, has taken over from Nico Gerler in the pink BWT car. And then we welcome Gabrielle Zhilkova, one of 2 lady racers here in the Prototype Cup Germany this year. Gabrielle Zhilkova from the Czech Republic, Gabby as she likes to be called, took over from Lucas Moron in the JVO Racing Duquesne, and really good to have her here. And she is a real entertainer, I have to tell you that. If you've not seen Gabriella before, she is not scared to get stuck in and show how it is done. We saw her in GT4 over the last couple of years, and she was red hot. We're looking at the Sebastian von Gartzen Conrad Motorsport Ginetta. Both the Ginettas, or 2 of the 3 Ginettas anyway, being removed from the circuit. You can see that Jakob Erlbacher is still in the pits. He's also in a Ginetta, so not a great day for Ginetta, because that is well past the scheduled pit stop. Right, full course yellow has gone, and well, Martin Anderson's going anyway. So the number 21 car racing away and past the Aus Motorsport car of Konstantin Skoll. Now, Konstantin Skoll, another vastly experienced driver. I think he might have got caught snoozing there a little bit as we went back into green flag conditions. Martin Anderson, ever the opportunist, jumps past him and takes that position away. So great job from him. Jan Marszałkowski there as well at the back of that pack. A useful driver, Jan Marszałkowski. Now what can he do about the number 3 car that is in front of him? Konstantin Skoll, as already mentioned, a very experienced pilot, and a driver who has done both GT Masters and GT4 as well, and in fact has been in Drago Racing Team in ZVO, so he and Jan Marszałkowski will know each other very well and will know how each other operates. As we look at the Conrad Motorsport car, sat unloved at the side of the track at this moment in time, and now being hauled onto the low loader, ready to be taken back. Repair work will be done, and dare say that car will be back on the grid for race 2 tomorrow. That, of course, is the Danny Sufi car, one of the 2 Conrad Motorsport Ginettas that have not made it to the end of the race today. And that is such a shame. Our focus now back on to the racing, and Konstantin Skoll with Jan Marszałkowski looking to the inside, under braking into the hairpin, and the experience of Jan Marszałkowski goes to the inside. The drag race, the mighty drag race, out around turn 7. keep the power on, and Skoll just about beating Jan Marszałkowski to the corner, but you get the feeling it's not going to be long before Jan is through. Here he comes again. Can he slow it down? Yes, he can. Jan Marszałkowski stealing the position away. Then he slams the door in the face of Konstantin Skoll. So Jan Marszałkowski up into 10th place on this, his debut in the LMP3 category of Prototype Cup Germany. Brilliant stuff there for Jan Marszałkowski, a German driver who is showing that he is an ace driver here around the Hockenheimring. Now, next up for him will be Martin Andersson, and you can see how much Jan Marszałkowski is having to fight the wheel of that car as he bumps across the curbs. Now along the pit straight they come. You can see he's left Konstantin Skoll behind fairly quickly, and now bearing down on the Martin Andersson car. Once again, we continue, and it'll be out with Martin Andersson round this series of corners. Jan Marszałkowski has really pulled away from Konstantin Skoll very quickly. And up through the parabolica we go, closing in into the hairpin. You get the feeling that Marszałkowski is really enjoying himself this afternoon in the Prototype Cup Germany. While all this has been going on, it is Julian Apothelos who leads the way by just over 11 seconds. That's a massive amount ahead of Gary Hauser in the number 15 car. Gary, who took over from Marcus Pommer. So Gary Hauser from Luxembourg in second place. In third, Matthias Luton, the defending trophy champion driver. But our focus at the moment very much on this fight here. Martin Andersson, we've got the graphics now. Martin Andersson, you can see 9th place, Jan Marszałkowski behind him. We haven't spoken about Victor Catalano yet, and Valentino, not Victor, renamed him, in 8th place. He's a very useful pilot. Another driver who's come through the ranks of ADAC Formula 4. That was the last time we spoke about him here at the Hockenheimring, and he has moved up into the mighty LMP3 series, and running in 8th place behind Elio Sperandio. Of course, Sperandio and Martin Andersson, the only two drivers in the field who didn't have a driver change at the pit stop. And you can see Martin Andersson, the back end, just switching around, but not as much as Jan Marszałkowski, who loses it on the corner, pushed it a little bit too hard. The tyres cried, enough. And now he's looking for traction as he tries to get it moving. Such a shame after such good progress. And just getting up, well, he clipped a curb, didn't he? Got a wheel almost onto the grass. No grip to be had there. The back end of the car switches around, and Jan Marszałkowski is left pointing in the wrong direction. I should think he'll be thumping the steering wheel there. He rejoins, but he's lost a couple of positions. And doing so, a little way back, so he's got all that hard work to do again. But knowing Jan Marszałkowski, he will learn this one. And unlikely that he'll do that again, because he's a driver who adapts and learns as he goes. But he's got a lot of work to do now as he drops further back down the order. Jan Marszałkowski in the MRS GT Racing Ligier. MRS, another legendary team, Molitor Racing Systems, who join us here in the Prototype Cup Germany. So many good teams taking an interest in this series, and you get the feeling that the grid is going to grow and grow. We've had a big increase in numbers from the initial year last year, which was very much a toe in the water, and more teams are getting involved. So we're having a look here at Mark van der Snel, and he is working his way through in the very pretty black and orange car, currently in 4th place, and ahead of him that is Gabriel Gilkova. So Gilkova, who has found a route past and into that 4th place. So that means that Mark van der Snel now down into 5th place, and we'll wait for our timing screens to update just to confirm that. Gabriel Gilkova, well, we told you she was good, didn't we? The number 5 pilot who has taken over from Lucas Moron. in the JVO Racing Duqueine. Once again, we ride on board, not so much with Laurenteur anymore, but now Matthias Luton, who's taken over that seat in the number 72 car. The driver who is in third place, because Gary Hauser, who took over from Marcus Pommer, is up into second place. Gary Hauser moving forwards through the pack. Still, Julian Apothelos leading the way, 12 seconds to the good. And there are just over 10 minutes of this race remaining, 10 minutes plus 1 lap. So Julian Apothelos has a very good cushion, but Gary Hauser, a very experienced driver. He was 5th in the series last year, the Prototype Cup Germany, but has raced many things. 31 years old and an LMP3 driver since 2019, so he is very useful indeed. We'll keep an eye on that 11.998 second gap to Julian Apothelos and see if he can do anything about that, but it really is a tall order in 10 minutes. That'll be more than a second a lap that will be required. And Julian Apothelos appears to have this very much under control at the moment. The number 6 car just completing another lap well ahead of this car that we are riding with. Gary Hauser, very skilled driver. And in fact, Apothelos has opened up the gap a little bit more, now a little over 12 seconds. Matthias Luton, 7.3 seconds behind. Gabrielle Jilkova, how great to have her here in 4th place. Now this is a fight. It's Mark van der Snel, I beg your pardon, coming under pressure from Gustav Kirillia, who took over from Nico Gerler. So Mark van der Snel perhaps not having quite the pace of his son Max, but still doing very well indeed in 5th place. But surely the BWT Muka Motorsport Duqueine is going to be sailing past before too long, because Gustavo Kirillia is looking very rapid indeed. He lines up the driver from the Netherlands in front of him and doesn't make the move on this particular instance, but surely that is going to come now. The 2 cars running side by side briefly. Gustavo dropping back, but now he's going to pick up this slipstream as they go absolutely flat out along the parabolica. He looks to the outside. Mark van der Snel goes to block him. He knows that into the hairpin, that is the important line. And now Gustavo looking to go around the outside, but Mark van der Snel had that covered off. You saw him move over as they head along the parabolica, but Gustavo's not done yet. He switches back to the inside along turn 7, flat out, and now towards turn 8, under braking, and Gustavo Kirillia takes over that position from behind. You could see the 55 car getting it all along, 35 car of Elio Sperandio, and almost running into the back of van der Snel. So Sperandio now running alongside as well, stealing that position away, but that was a big moment there for Elio Sperandio. And we have a look again, you can see he goes to make a move, and Mark van der Snel looks to shut the door and throw the anchors out and the sandbags and the kitchen sink to get the thing slowed down. Well, he did it, didn't he? And he made the move a little later on, but I should think there's probably a bit of a flat spot on those tyres after that moment. The blue plumes of smoke coming up from the BHK Motorsport Ligier, but job done, he's passed. Let's hope the tyres are up to it. And Elio Sperandio now up into 6th place. Ahead of him is Gustavo Kirillia. So beautiful car, that number 35 car. And Elio Sperandio doing a good job at the wheel of it. The Swiss driver who has done twice as much as everybody else on the track, apart from Martin Anderson, as the driver who didn't have a stint change. And in fact, you think, well, maybe that's good. He's in the rhythm. He knows the car. He's not dependent on anybody else. And he paid the penalty in the pit stop with a longer pit stop, but he still circulates in 6th place. Julian Apothelos continues his march at the front, 12.2 seconds ahead of Gary Hauser. Matthias Luton, 11 seconds behind. Gabrielle Jilkova in 4th place, 13 seconds behind him. Then this car here, the number 8 car of Gustavo Kirillia. We'll get that pronunciation right before the end of the season, I promise. The driver from Brazil in the distinctive pink BWT liveried car. And Elio Sperandio just tracking his every move. There are no real battles going on at the moment on the track. We have lost the number 22 car. That, of course, was Sebastian von Gartzen was at the wheel at the time. Also, the number 2, Danny Sufi, both Conrad Motorsport cars. And we have lost Jakob Erlbacher in the Gebhardt Motorsport Ginetta. So 3 Ginettas, all 3 Ginettas out of the race, which is a real shame. There'll be some investigations going on in the pits overnight. That was nice to see that Julian Hastis is doing well in the GT racing, a friend of ours, but not relevant for this race. A little over 5 minutes remaining, and plus 1 lap. They've done 28 laps already, and it's Julian Apothelos who has dominated this race along with teammate Oscar Tunyo. They stepped off pole position and never looked back. The number 8 car continues to trunk away. Gustavo Querila in 5th place ahead of Elio Sperandio. Mark van der Snel in 7th place, who took over from son Max. That is Gabriel Jakova, one of 2 lady drivers on the grid, as already mentioned. Courtney Crone, who would have taken over from Jakob Erlbacher, who sadly never got past the pit stop window, and into the pits comes Gabriel Jilkova. Now, there's been no penalty flashed up, so I can only assume this is an unscheduled stop. So, coming into the pits, and, well, that looked to me like a drive-through penalty, but there has been nothing on the timing screens to indicate any issues. Certainly nothing on our graphics, but that has certainly thrown the proverbial cat amongst the pigeons, because the number 5 car required to visit the pit lane, clearly some kind of penalty has been awarded, but we have not been notified what it was. And Gabriel Jakova rejoins. I don't know how much space she lost. She may well have held on to position despite that drive-through. Right, challenges further down. Max van der Snel now with Valentino Catalano, the driver that we haven't seen much of so far, and the number 77 DKR Engineering Duquesne makes the move past and into 7th place. So Valentino Catalano, who took over from Robin Rogowski, good job from them, making it up to 7th when they started 13th on the grid after that difficult qualifying session. And Mark van der Snel drops back another position, so down into 8th place. And I've just now seen what the reason was. No, it wasn't Gabriel Jakova. The car 21, that's Martin Anderson, who's got a 5-second penalty for exceeding track limits. So Martin Anderson also in trouble with the stewards, but that's just flashed up very briefly on our timing screens and then disappeared again. So there are some penalties being handed out. Gosh, a little over 2 minutes of this race remaining. And it is Julian Apothelos who leads the way from Oscar Tunyo. A number 15 car of Gary Hauser in 2nd place, who took over from Marcus Pommer. And still challenges for position up and down the pack. The number 12 car, Wolfgang Peyer, we haven't mentioned him yet, challenging for position and challenging to stay on the track, goes wide into the corner. So Wolfgang Peyer currently in that 12th place. Jan Marszalkowski, the driver, who's way past him. So Wolfgang Peyer took over from Kevin Rorscheit, and the 2 bronze drivers running together, learning very much the hard way in this. There is Jan Marszalkowski in number 14, currently in 11th place. Such a shame, that mistake in the MRS GT Racing Ligier, and that mistake earlier on that saw him drop down the order. But up until then, a great showing from Jan Marszalkowski. So here we come with a little over a minute plus 1 lap of this race remaining. It's the first race of the season for the Prototype Cup Germany. And Jan Marszałkowski running now on his own, having cleared back marker traffic, having cleared Wolfgang Peyer. And now just putting in the laps, and it'll be Jan who will do the qualifying tomorrow. The #1 drivers today, who qualified today and did the first stint, will be the #2 drivers tomorrow, and the #2 drivers from today will do the qualifying tomorrow morning. So we look forward to seeing what Jan Marszałkowski can do. He will be hoping for better weather and better conditions as we look there at the mighty JVO Racing Duqueine D08. Currently with Julian Apotholos at the wheel, having taken over from Oscar Tunyo. And another lap completed. Now, the clock hasn't quite struck 0, so I believe there will be this lap and then one more after this. We will keep an eye on that. Elios Sperandio is under investigation for track limits and will be reported to the steward. So the 35 car has been using a little bit too much of the circuit as he challenges Gustav Kirilla in the #8 car. And locking up into the corner, trying so hard. Very impressive stuff from Elias Sperandio. Really impressive. Right, well, we've got notification. It is the last lap. So it is just the remainder of this lap for Julian Apotholos to complete. And then he will be the first winner of 2023, the second season for Prototype Cup Germany here at the Hockenheimring. It was Oscar Tunyo who did all the hard work this morning, put the car on pole position, pulled out a big gap, and then Julian Apotholos, who took over after the mandatory pit stop and carried on at the front. You can see him just lapping traffic now. Second place, Gary Hauser, a solid second place, having taken over from Marcus Pommer. And in third place, it's Matthias Luton, the reigning trophy champion, who took over from Lawrence Herr. But very much stealing the headlines here to come out of the final corner. He's going to win. No, he's not. I think our graphic was optimistic after all. Oh, dearie me, I hope he can make it this last lap, having built it up that much. I know it said last lap on the previous lap, but now it's the last lap. So just one more circuit to do. And Julian Apotholos, good job he didn't slow down. We've seen that happen before, haven't we, in races where drivers have thought it's the last lap and it's been the penultimate lap. So we were right first time. It is just the remainder of this lap. Oh, we get to build it all up again, don't we? The last time along the parabolic, and this time it really is the last time. And into the hairpin. Slow the thing down. 13.8 seconds. That is a crushing lead over Gary Hauser. And out along towards turn 7 for the last time. Up towards the Mercedes stand. At turn 8, then it'll be the sharp left. And then it's through the sequence of corners 9, 10 and 11, which is the Mobile 1 corner. And then into the Motordrome for the last few corners of this 4.5 kilometre track. This time, it really is the last lap. Julian Apotholos, who took over from Oscar Tunyo. A dominant display from both of these drivers, young and really mighty. Out of the final corner comes Julian Apotholos to win race 1 of the season for the Prototype Cup Germany. Crossing the line, and we've got a fair old wait now before Gary Hauser, because nearly 14 seconds back. Oh, that's just updated because Julian Apotholos clearly has backed off in that last lap, so still 8 seconds. Very impressive indeed. And Julian Apotholos on the slowdown. Really, nothing was going to get anywhere near them today. Of course, Julian will have to qualify that car tomorrow, so he will be the one who has to do the hard work in the morning. and we'll see how well he can do. And Oscar Tunyo will have the second stint in the seat of that car. So good stuff, and very sad to see the Conrad Motorsport cars not making it to the end. And also, we didn't get to see Courtney Crone. There's a long way to come from the USA, but she will get a chance tomorrow, and she will be the driver who will qualify that car. We look at the number 12 of Wolfgang Peyer, just slowing down. And there is the number 15 of Gary Hauser, who came home in second place, flashing the lights in celebration. So, there is Gary Hauser, number 15. And he, with Marcus Pommer, no doubt will be championship challengers as this season progresses. So 34 laps were in the book, and 34 laps completed in the 55 minutes. The Quarren Kempe Motorsport Duquesne, and that is a last look from on board, with Matthias Luton in that third place. So unable to turn that second place starting position into a second place finish, but still third place, very respectable indeed for the defending trophy champion in Prototype Cup Germany. The rumble of the cars dies down as the cars will now come into the pit lane to conclude a thrilling afternoon of racing from the Prototype Cup Germany. JVO Racing by Danforth Motorsport to give it its full title, with Oscar Tunyo and Julian Apotholos taking the win ahead of Marcus Pommer and Gary Hauser in the Racing Experience. Number 15, the Quarren Kempe Motorsport car driven by Lawrence Hur and Matthias Luton in third, ahead of Nico Gerler and Gustavo Kirila in the BWT Muka Motorsport number 8 car. BHK Motorsports being driven by Elias Sperandio, and the JVO Racing by Danforth Motorsport car, and that was being driven by brain fade, Gabrielle Jakova. There we got there in the end, and she was sharing with Lucas Moron, and there are the rest of the results scrolling through. Missing, presumed having a good time, the two Conrad Motorsport cars, and in the pits the Gebhardt Motorsport car. The three Ginettas not making it to the finish line. On this occasion, I'd expect that whatever the problem has been will be rectified overnight, and we should see that corrected tomorrow. It stayed dry. Well, that is a result, isn't it? Because these beasts in the rain are very hard work on a wet track. Martin Anderson there, looks like just cruising around, and a good job done by Martin Anderson, I have to say. He did exceptionally well with little to no experience in LMP3 racing to come out of this and to finish in 9th place. That was a very good progress indeed. He started 7th, but as we say, he's been learning the job as he races, as indeed we all have. Here are the drivers now, the cars in Parc Fermé, and soon it's like Valentino Catalano receiving congratulations, and soon the drivers will make their way onto the podium. There is the unmistakable sight of the BWT car. Let's have a look at some of the highlights. So a little look there at some of the highlights from this, the first race of the season for Prototype Cup Germany, part of the ADAC race weekend, a weekend that has entertained the many fans who have come along here to the Hockenheimring. They've been enjoying all sorts of racing, including the classic Tourenwagen, the GT Racing GTC series, and many other things on the programme, but the rumble of the Prototype Cup Germany certainly stealing a few headlines as the crowd gather in front of the stage, ready for their podium presentation of the drivers. The stage it is out behind the paddock, and it takes a little while for the drivers to get there to receive their trophies. And Oscar Tunyo and Julian Apotholos will be taking the top step of that podium. So the world waits in trembling anticipation for the drivers to appear. It's been a good start to the season for Prototype Cup Germany. To remind you, we are back to do it all again tomorrow. Sometime around, I believe, about 20 to 2. No, you might want to check that. Around lunchtime tomorrow, the second race here at Hockenheim. And then 26th to the 28th of May, we head to Oschersleben, part of the DTM package. That will be high pressure indeed. Then the mighty Zandvoort, the banked Zandvoort in the Netherlands on the 23rd to the 25th of June, again part of the DTM package. And then the street circuit, Norrisring, that will be quite an experience for the Prototype Cup Germany. 7th and 9th of July, to see these cars around the streets of Nuremberg will be spectacular. Again, part of the DTM package. And then 1st to the 3rd of September, we head to Assen for 2 races, races 9 and 10. And then it all comes to a finish at the Nürburgring, the 13th to the 15th of October for races 11 and 12. And that will conclude the year for the Prototype Cup Germany. A lot of people looking around going, where are the drivers? We want to see them on the podium. Well, I can see Oscar Tunyo down there with the red hat. And I think that was Julian Apotholos, who's just disappeared off stage right. So hopefully we'll see them in a bit. Just to confirm that tomorrow the race is 20 to 2 as suggested, and we will start our coverage a few minutes before that, so why not join us 25 to 2 tomorrow afternoon local time for race 2 from the Hockenheimring. And it will be very interesting to see how these drivers get on. The number 2 drivers from today who will be doing the qualifying, they will all be praying for dry weather for the qualifying session. You think these things are a handful in the dry, you want to see them in the wet. And it'll be the number 2 drivers who will be doing the qualifying, with the exception of Martin Andersson and also Elia Sperandio, because they are solo drivers. And you do wonder whether being a solo driver, although you get the time penalty, might be something of an advantage. You get into the rhythm. Right, well, they've brought the champagne out. That's good. Send some up here. And that's onto the podium. So all we need now is some people to spray that champagne, and all will be good. It will be Oscar Tunyo and Julian Apotholos who will go to the top step of the podium. Then it'll be the number 15 team, Marcus Pommer, Gary Hauser. We've seen Marcus Pommer over the years driving as part of the ADAC, many times in fact. A 6 times a winner in ADAC GT Masters, the 2014 German Formula 3 champion. And now, there we go, comparing notes. Great to have Oscar Tunyo here from Colombia. Comparing notes with Lawrence Her and Matthias Luton. Matthias Luton, the taller of the two. I would try and listen in, but I don't think they're speaking in English, so it's pretty pointless. So, overalls on, and hopefully, very, very shortly, we will actually get to see it. Right, here we go then. So, the Quarren and Kempe Motorsport team, who finished in 3rd place, and that is Matthias Luton and Lawrence Her. On to the podium. 2nd place, number 15 team of racing experience. And that is Gary Hauser and Marcus Pommer. But an absolutely dominant display here in race 1 of the Prototype Cup Germany. 2 drivers who have been there or thereabouts, but this is their moment now. Oscar Tunjo, Julian Apotholos will take the top step of the podium, and they take the win for JVO Racing on their debut in Prototype Cup Germany. So the drivers stand together on the podium, and we're going to get a national anthem. The Colombian flag in Oscar Tunjo's hand. Let's have the national anthem. So the German national anthem to represent JVO Racing, who of course are the team. It's quite a squeeze. We need a bigger podium, we really do. They're all huddled up there. Group hug, everybody. A round of applause. And now the trophy presentations. Someone find the trophies. There we go. Trophies to be presented. 1st, 2nd, and 3rd. You can see the different builds of the drivers. They have different size seat inserts so that they can fit in the same car. Actually, Marcus Pommer and Gary Hauser are pretty similar, but certainly when the drivers are a different build, they have to have inserts in the seats just to bring them to the right level so they can reach the pedals and look out see over the steering wheel and be securely in their seat. Right, trophies are presented to the 2nd and 3rd. A really dominant display from Oscar Tunjo and Julian Apotholos. Can they do it again tomorrow? It will be Julian Apotholos, the one on the right, who will be doing the qualifying tomorrow morning for race 2 of this 12-race season. We have been at the Hockenheimring for this, the 1st round of the ADAC and Creventic Prototype Cup Germany. And a trophy also awarded to the Jörg van Orman team, JVO Racing, for a job well done here on this Saturday here at the Hockenheimring. We just pose for a few minutes longer. More trophies to be given out. And they really do need a bigger podium, don't they? I believe that would be for the highest finish trophy driver. And there's also going to be the highest finishing junior driver. Need a table to put that lot on. Lots of trophies, lots of smiles all around. And the reigning trophy champion, Matthias Luton, with 2 trophies for his trouble, getting the defence of his championship off to the best possible start in the trophy category. And Julian Apotholos, of course, leading the way in the junior category. Celebrations will now commence. We'll see you tomorrow for race 2 from the Hockenheimring. See you then. Bye-bye.